Halloween. The one night everyone wears a mask, and no one asks what's underneath. Porch lights flicker like dying stars. The air smells like smoke, sugar, and something older. Laughter thins into whispers between trees. Footsteps pause where the light stops. You tell yourself it's part of the fun, that the chill is just the cold, until you notice a shape that doesn't move, a face that doesn't blink, and you realize you're not the one watching tonight. You're the one being watched. It was Halloween 2023. I was 22 and worn out from a community festival. Games, costume contests, trivia, kids versus parents dodgeball. Fun, draining. I'm a community worker. Events are my normal, and they take it out of you. I'd just gotten home when my phone buzzed, a little after 6. My kid sister, Savannah, 15, wanted me to take her and my nephew, Jackson, 11, trick-or-treating. Our parents were done for the day. Jackson's parents, too. I was the cool brother, so bye. So I pulled myself together and drove over. Savannah was Raven from Teen Titans. White makeup, ghost pale stare. Jackson was Sub-Zero. I took them to a busy neighborhood, max candy per block. People were kind. At one house, an older man handed out hot dogs and sodas. Protein's better than sugar, he said. I couldn't argue. When we hit our last house and turned back toward the car, the streets had quieted. Fewer lights, fewer voices. That's when I saw her. Across the street, in a dark yard with no porch light, a figure head to toe in black, hooded cloak, full mask, no face. I couldn't tell man or woman, but I felt her looking at us. Stay close, I told them. Don't stare, just glance. Across the yard, Jackson laughed. Just someone trying to scare people. Savannah didn't. She knew I sometimes carried. I had my Glock in my backpack. I don't tell Jackson. He's too young to understand. We kept moving. Then heavy footsteps hit the concrete behind us. Boots, deliberate. I turned. Same figure. Closer now. I could see the details. Tactical vest, boots, pants tucked into the boots, and a full spandex mask covering everything. She's following, I whispered. Listen carefully. Don't stop. Don't look back. Keep your pace. Stay calm. Savannah understood. Jackson swallowed hard. We walked. The distance never changed. Neither did the footsteps. At the car, she was still coming. I made a choice. I drew my Glock and leveled it. Why are you following us? She raised her hands like she hadn't expected that. Then she peeled off the mask. A woman. 30s. Calm, empty eyes. No answer. Why are you following us? I repeated. Her voice came out flat, robotic. I'm an undercover cop. There was a break-in. I was checking the house. You looked at me funny. I assumed you did it. Lower the weapon or I'll arrest you for threatening an officer. I hesitated, then lowered my gun. I didn't want to ruin the kid's night or risk an arrest. But nothing she said made sense. If there was a break-in, why stand with her back to the house? How did a glance make me a suspect? And why the cloak? If you're undercover, I asked, why the tactical gear? Why the cape? Silence. Her expression shifted. Something mean glinted in her eyes. If you didn't have that gun, she said, smiling slow, this night would have ended real different for you. Then I saw them. 4 figures slipping out between houses. Tactical vests, no cloaks. 3 men and a woman. Blank faces. No expression. No souls. Get in, I told Savannah and Jackson. I kept my eyes on the woman and the newcomers until they were buckled in. I got behind the wheel and pulled away. In the mirror, the woman was still smiling. The others weren't. They were stone. No one spoke on the way back. Shock can be quiet. I dropped them safely at home, then went to my place to puzzle through the wrongness of it all. Why us? The neighborhood had been full of people. So, why us? I wish it ended there. A few days later, a text from an unknown number. No words, just a photo, my car in my apartment lot. I went to the police. They took a report. No direct threat, no investigation. The usual. Out of frustration, I went back to the first house, knocked. A man in his 40s opened. Break in on Halloween? He looked baffled. No, he'd gone to bed early. Nothing strange. I told him what I'd seen. He had no idea. The undercover cop story fell apart completely. But I was left with something worse. Whoever they were, they had my number. They knew where I lived. It didn't feel random anymore. It felt like they'd been watching. Maybe my gun threw off whatever plan they had. Since then, I've put a Ring camera on my door and gone to therapy just to sleep. No more unknown texts, no more knocks. 2 years have passed. Writing this helps. But remember this much. Always watch your surroundings. You don't know who's watching you or how close danger can stand, doing nothing at all until you notice. And yes, being armed that night probably saved our lives. I was 12. My family booked a small family resort an hour from home for Halloween. 10 cabins, a lodge, a small lake, a field for games, and a hayride. Woods on all sides. Peaceful by day. Too quiet after dark. We checked in that afternoon. The air smelled like campfire smoke and candy apples. Kids ran around in costume before the sun even set. The hayride started at 7. Before that, ring toss for candy, a costume contest, pumpkin carving, orange string lights, fake spider webs. I met a kid my age, Ryan, in a skeleton suit. His family had the cabin next to ours. We played, gathered candy, killed time. We climbed onto the hay wagon with about 20 others. The tractor driver wore a scarecrow mask. Zombies jumped from trees and chased the wagon. People screamed, then laughed. It was a normal attraction. Halfway through, the tractor slowed into a darker stretch. Torches didn't reach far. I looked toward the edge of the woods. A man stood just outside the light. Not part of the show. You could tell. Black jacket, jeans, baseball cap pulled low, hands in his pockets, still as a post, watching. I felt his eyes on me. I glanced around to see if anyone else noticed. They didn't. I looked back. He hadn't moved. When the ride ended and we climbed off, I checked again. He was gone. I tried to forget it. We went back to the lodge. Bonfire, snacks, more games. My parents stayed by the flames while Ryan and I wandered, pockets sticky with candy wrappers. Normal again. Safe again. Until I saw him again. He was about 30 feet away, off to the side of the crowd near the tree line, standing alone, looking in our direction. I tried to see his face, but the lighting turned it into shadow. Just a hint of a short beard and a cap logo. I nudged Ryan. "That guy isn't staff," I said. "He was in the woods during the hayride." "Probably a dad," he said. I wanted to believe that. I turned away. When I looked back, he was gone. Around 9, the little kids had gone to bed. The night wound down, but Ryan and I still had energy. A trail ran from behind the cabins into the trees. "Let's go in a little," he said. "It's Halloween." I didn't want to go far. We had flashlights. I didn't want to look scared. The deeper we went, the quieter it got. The resort sounds faded behind us until there was only the crunch of our shoes on dirt. Maybe 200 feet in, we reached a clearing. A nailed-up board read, "Private property." We threw pebbles at it. dumb bravado. We laughed. Then we heard footsteps, heavy, slow, behind us, farther down the path. "Another kid," Ryan whispered. It didn't sound like a kid. There was weight in the gait. I aimed my flashlight down the trail. The beam died before it reached anything. The footsteps stopped. Silence. A voice spoke. "Hey there, boys." A man's voice, calm in a way that felt wrong. Ryan looked at me, and I knew he knew what I knew. The same man from the hayride. He stepped just into the edge of our light. Black jacket. Chapter. "What are you two doing out here?" he asked. "You like candy?" We said nothing. He pulled something from his pocket and held it up. An orange wrapper. Reese's. "I've got a bunch more in my cabin," he said. "Come on, I'll give you some." Ryan went pale. The man took a few steps closer. "No need to be scared," he said. "It's Halloween. I saw you two on the hayride." When he said that, my stomach dropped. I grabbed Ryan's arm. "Run!" We bolted, sprinting for the resort lights. For a second, I heard him behind us, footsteps pounding, closing. I didn't look back. My heart hammered. The path stretched forever. Then the bonfire glow cut through the trees. "Help!" I shouted as we burst into the open. Adults turned. We didn't stop until we were among them. I turned back to the trail. Empty. I told my parents everything. The man by the hayride, the man at the tree line, the voice in the woods. Ryan backed me up. My dad and another man grabbed flashlights. Staff joined them. They found nothing. The resort called local police. Officers arrived half an hour later, took statements, searched, alerted cabins. That night, my parents didn't let me out of their sight. We locked the door. I didn't sleep. Every sound was him. In the morning, the police said they'd found no one. No suspicious vehicles. No check-ins that matched. Probably a trespasser, they said. We left that day. I watched the woods vanish in the rear window, sure I'd see him standing there just beyond the light. For weeks after, I thought I saw him everywhere. Roadsides, parking lots, outside stores. It was always someone else. Or, I hope it was. We never learned who he was. What chills me now isn't what he did. It's what he could have done, if we'd taken one step toward him instead of away. Ever since, when I spot someone lingering alone at the edge of a crowd, I remember that man. Some people look like they're part of the fun. They're watching for a different reason. My name is Roger. This happened 3 Halloweens ago. I was 29, new at a decent office job. Bad shifts, beginner's time off. Halloween fell on a Saturday. Dry cold. My girlfriend was out of town with her parents. I lived alone on the edge of a quiet neighborhood where porch lights go dark around 9. By 10:30, I'd handed out candy, half-watched The Conjuring 2, and settled into the leftovers bowl. A light knock sounded at the side door. Stragglers, I figured. I opened it. No one. Just an empty drive and leaves whispering across the concrete. I went back to the couch. 15 minutes later, a sound from the back door, the one to the small deck. Nobody ever used it. I muted the TV and listened. The doorknob rattled. Careful. Testing. I crouched into the kitchen and peered through the window. A man crouched by the door. Dark clothes, a cheap, cracked Halloween mask pushed up on his forehead. In his hand, a crowbar. He wasn't hiding. He was deliberate, calm, like he knew I was inside and didn't care. I eased back and called 911, whispering. The dispatcher told me to lock in somewhere safe and not engage. I didn't want to give myself away, slamming doors upstairs. I stayed prone at the top of the steps with a kitchen knife, updating her under my breath. The man moved away from the door. Then a faint pop, a window screen coming off. The basement. Moments later, glass cracked. Not a smash and grab. He knew I was home. He kept going anyway. Minutes stretched into hours. The dispatcher kept me talking. I heard footsteps circling the house, then headlights swept the blinds. Red and blue washed the walls. The man bolted. I saw him sprint across the yard. He didn't make it far. Officers tackled him near the driveway. Only then did I realize how hard I was shaking. When they brought him up in cuffs, I saw what he'd been carrying. Crowbar, duct tape, zip ties. Not a TV thief, a plan. They told me he had a record for break-ins and was suspected in cases where people had gone missing. Ever since, being home alone on Halloween isn't fun. Every knock, every footstep outside drags me back to that night. If the police had been 5 minutes later, I might not be here. Weeks after, they followed up with a full inventory of his bag, a .45 handgun, several kitchen knives, and rope. He wasn't looking for things. He was looking for someone. Halloween disguises monsters, sometimes in cloaks and masks, sometimes in a ball cap and a stillness that doesn't belong, sometimes in the quiet patience of a hand testing your doorknob like it owns it. 3 nights, 3 true stories, 1 truth. Fear doesn't live in haunted houses. It lives at the edges, the dark yard with no porch light, the line where torchlight dies, the stairs above a basement window where someone waits. If you made it this far, watch your shadows tonight. Look twice before you laugh. Lock the door and listen. This is Hidden Fears. We tell what others try to forget. Subscribe, share your story in the comments, and send this to the one friend still going out. Not to scare them, to make sure they come back.